Hello everyone, welcome to our Science and Technology series. This is our third lecture on biotechnology. This is the 24th lecture and we will be starting with few concepts in this lecture also, and we will be discussing government policies, various bills and various, let's say, instructions that government has given to handle biotechnology. So let's get started. So first of all, few things that we have to see is first of all, mapping the Indian genome. So this is happening in our country. So I have divided these topics into parts and highlighted for you so you can directly make your notes like this only. So what is the need of this project? You have to think why the government has introduced this. So basically this project will help the country, our country, to develop a local capacity, or let's say a make in India capacity, to generate and utilize large scale genome data. All right. And that will basically make India a sort of hub for genome editing or genome study. So what will happen? The effect would be that many people would get attracted and it might lead to increase in investment in India. All right. So this is the need of it. Also, India has a lot of diversity. So the genome that India can provide to the world would be very nice for scientific research. It would be very valuable in order to study the changes that can come due to a medicine on a genome. All right. So the other thing is the corollary of this, the similar argument can be made that the diversity that is available in India, it is not available in any country outside India. So existing genome that is there in with the researchers in the labs, it is not representative of all the humans that are there in the world. All right. Now in the next section, let's see the applications. Application is basically there are many diseases which are called rare diseases. Now this is a new word, right? Rare diseases. So this is basically a disease or any condition that affects less than 2 lakh people. Less than 2 lakh people, it will be a rare disease. So if we can study all the genomes that are available in the world, we would be able to design cures for such rare diseases because obviously people are getting affected. Next is precision medicine for different type of genomes. I hope you understand what is genome by now, and if you haven't or if you don't understand, please see the first lecture in this series, biotechnology part 1. Right. So precision medicine will be made for different type of genomes. As India has the highest diversity in genomes, so it can help, right, in making customized medicine. For example, there is a community in Andhra Pradesh, VYSY, Vaisya community. So this community in Andhra Pradesh has a special or specific genetic mutation that basically makes them susceptible to a category of anesthetics. Basically, this community, this is very sensitive. I mean, due to a genetic mutation in their body, they are very sensitive to the anesthetics that are given before the surgery. So they have doctors have to be very careful while giving them muscle relaxants before surgery. Otherwise, it can lead to severe complications. And obviously, third application is it can improve the scientific knowledge in India. It will be helpful for our researchers also, and like I told, it will attract foreign researchers also. What are the challenges? Challenges are basically anonymity and misuse of genetic data without consent. It is the main issue. We have discussed about consent. So basically, people might use your genetic data. They might buy it illegally from somebody and then use it to produce something. I've given you example of a world leader previously. Stigma, creation of stigma. How? Let's see, right now we stigmatize people based on their caste, right? We say that they are inferior people, right? This is the fact. Similarly, if you come to know that some genes are basically not as good as some other genes, or we can say that genes coming from some part of the world are slightly inferior to genes coming from some other part of the world, right? So what will happen? Stigma, obviously. What is happening with lower caste people in our country, that will happen with people who are supposedly weaker or supposedly have weaker genes. Then of course designer baby issue, which we have discussed before. So what is the way forward? Basically, we need a policy. The government needs to regulate this sector before it gets out of hand. We need policy so that we can create precision medicine. That is a very lucrative thing. And if already India is a hub of medical tourism, if we move forward in this in a rapid way, we can become a host, a big host, or basically tourism will increase in terms of precision medicine, right? Then of course data privacy needs to be ensured. We need to have stringent rules that will prevent the data loss, data stealing, misuse of data, deletion of data. We need to have skilled manpower. Obviously this is a very general point which you can insert in any of the technology. In any way forward, in any technology you can insert this. It is a very common way forward. Here I would like to tell you something, that you should maintain a small notebook of general answers and data which you can use in many answers. So basically you can reuse those things, right? Reuse and recycle those things. So be careful and try to create a copy. Like I just said, skilled manpower, data privacy. You can use data privacy in any technology related to future, in AI, in genetics, in nanotechnology also. So please make a notebook of general answers wherein you can insert general answer and data. Data can be like female labor force participation rate, literacy rate in the country and in your state, and so on. So create a data bank, create a small general answer notebook wherein you can insert all this random data, but again that data will be used across answers. All right. So ethical issue, this challenges ethical issue. Just one point. Basically, you can use, I have discussed this before, but still I should repeat it. The technology can be used to, or basically misused, all right, to create designer babies, as was done by the Chinese scientist, which of whom example I have taken. So again, please remember one thing which you can write in your general answers, that technology has two sides, right? It's a tool. If you use it in a good way, you can create good out of it. If you use in a bad way, you can obviously harm other people. So technology depends on its usage. It does not depend on how it was built. It depends, the positive and negatives of technology depends on how it is used. Next topic, next part of this genome mapping only. So first I have explained you mapping of Indian genome. Now similar topic is there, genome mapping of the Indian Ocean. Now this is a little different. In the previous topic, it was the mapping of genome of humans. Here it would be basically of the marine animals, right? So the way I have designed these slides, in the same way you can design your answers or even your notes. So keep in mind the way I've distributed things. Learn how to distribute any topic, because you have to study some things on your own, right? Like current affairs. Obviously we also provide you current affairs, but note making will be on your side. So try to see how I've distributed things. Like for example in this, why it is needed, what are the application, what are the challenges, what are the way forward. So basically this is in a form of a main examination answer, right? So the way I've made these slides, they have been made very painstakingly. So try to see the structure, because this is the way you should make your own notes. All right. With that out of the way, genome mapping of the Indian Ocean. So the National Institute of Oceanography is going to launch one of the first projects to map the genome in the Indian Ocean. Now, why are they doing this? Think about this. Always try to understand the why of things. Why are they doing this? So they are doing obviously to map the genome of what? Of aquatic microorganisms. All right. And why? Because they want to understand what is going on in the sea. They want to understand if climate change is having any effect. Because how do you compare things? You have a baseline, and that baseline will be the data collected right now by this project. And in future it will be compared. Right? So the things that are happening like climate change and pollution of the oceans. Now, how is it changing the behavior of animals? How is it changing their DNA? All those things will be understood by this project. What is the cost? 25 crores, and it will take 3 years to complete. So see, in this area it will be tracked. You can see the white area from Goa, then going slightly below the Tropic of Capricorn to the Vizag, Vishakhapatnam. Now, how will they collect the genome, right? So when I was researching about this topic, I was like, how? So they will be researching to the depth of 5 kilometers for an average. Like till that depth, they will be researching the microorganisms and mapping their genome, right? So to understand this, I have taken an example like you have to map a gene, right? You take blood sample and then you map the gene of the person. So the scientist will map these bacteria that are found in the ocean. Right? They will try to find how this bacteria lives, what is the nature, what are the genomes, what are the chemical compositions. All right. Again, we don't have to go into very depth. We just have to understand and touch a lot of topics in this topic. So basically, have a 360-degree approach or comprehensive approach, right? So that you touch every facet of that topic. So that is the approach for mains, right? Since we are at the mains part of this topic, so that is why I am telling you all these things. In prelims, it's mostly understanding the concept and focusing on small facts. Not very deep, but again, some things that come in the newspaper you should be able to answer. So what are the benefits? This will help us in understanding the ecosystem. That means it will help the scientist understand how the ecosystem of Indian Ocean works, right? You, secondly, we can understand the factors that are causing climate change. So the research that will be carried out, it will help the scientists to basically see the changes in RNA, right, DNA in the ocean of the microorganisms, right? Similarly, such research will help in identifying mineral concentration in the microorganisms. Like due to pollution, a lot of mineral is flowing into ocean, and to understand the effects of it, of course, we need to know how much the level of mineral is there in the microorganism. All right. Fourth point is increased biotechnology application. How? See, you will be mapping a genome. All right. So that will help you basically understand how microorganisms work, and by chance you find an organism or a microorganism that can help in removal or digestion of plastic in the ocean. So we can obviously use that bacteria in our filtration process or basically bioremediation. Also, there might be some seaweed or let's say some sea animal that might be able to help in cancer treatment. I'm just telling you examples. There might be some microorganism that might help in curing skin diseases, right? So lot of or yeah, example for example, another thing, some microorganisms might be able to help in our industrial processes of fermentation, right, of making curd and so on, right? Also some microorganism might be able to help in curing some diseases, or some microorganisms might have antiviral properties. So lot of things. All right, so lot of biotechnology applications can be created and most probably will be created. That is why they're researching. Na? Of course, government also, when it takes a decision, it analyzes a lot of things. Finally, optimization of conservation efforts. So if you explore the ocean and if you do a study on how things are affecting the microorganisms, then you develop a new insight. Insight into what? You develop an insight on how microorganisms are reacting to change in the concentration of ocean, or basically things in the ocean. So you can increase or decrease things. You can channelize your conservation efforts in a better way if you analyze things, because we need to obviously see the effect of the efforts so that we can change it if it is needed, right? So that is optimization, right? To create a process which has highest output to input ratio, right? Or the best output to input ratio. So we need to optimize the conservation efforts, and for that we need data, and that data can come from this project only. All right, coming to the next topic, which is biotechnology in India. So here I will give you some facts which you can use anywhere, and also which will help you to get a clear picture in regarding how things are moving on in India. In India, Department of Biotechnology is the basically nodal agency. All right, so it manages and monitors and implements all the biotechnology programs in India. Now, some facts, more facts. Indian biotechnology sector has crossed 3 billion milestone, and it's growing at the rate of 30% over the last few years. It is believed that it could cross 20 billion, and it can reach that target and also cross. Okay. Now, considering this topic, like, is India a biotech growth catalyst? So yeah, there are few facts that attest to it. Like, India is among the top 12 destinations of biotechnology in the world. It has 3% share in the global biotechnology sector, and by financial year 2024, it is thought that it could basically be a very important part for the target of 5 trillion economy which the country has, right? So 5 trillion economy, there is a aim to make India 5 trillion economy. So biotechnology sector will be a big contributor of that goal, or in that goal. India is also a very important player in the global vaccine market. It leads in the supply of DPT, BCG, measles vaccine, and it is a key contributor of 70% of WHO vaccines, right? Especially the immunization vaccines. Then Indian companies are setting up facilities for nearly 5.5 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccine by 2021. It's a huge number. India also ranks 48th on the Global Innovation Index. India has the maximum number of US FDA approved manufacturing sites outside US, which is a very good number. By 2025, Indian biotechnology industry is expected to reach $150 billion from $70 billion in 2020. So the target was crossed. Financial year 20, the sector grew 15% year on year. Now there are 9 biotechnology parks and four biotechnology science clusters all over India. 100% FDI is allowed, and under the automatic route for greenfield. That is the point that you need to know. The other point is very technical. It's good if you can remember, otherwise not really necessary. 100% FDI is allowed under the government route for brownfield pharma. 74 under automatic route, and beyond 74 under the government approval route. So this is for greenfield, this is for brownfield. FDA up to 100% is allowed under the automatic route for the manufacturing of medical devices. So all these things will attract investors in India. 100% FDI is allowed in almost all the 3 cases. So it will be very beneficial, especially for Make in India, then creation of employment in India. Of course, in the end, we would gain Forex. Next, coming to an important keyword, synthetic biology. Now, why are we reading this? Because it is a evolving discipline. It's something which is coming, or it is new. and UPSC has a habit of asking things that are new or they are upcoming, right? So UPSC wants to maintain its dynamism, so it does that by asking questions on new technology, new policies, and so on. So why we are reading this? Because it's a evolving discipline and there is no policy as of now for this. So indirectly a question can come that to handle the evolving biotechnology, how should we design a program or how should we design a policy? So basically synthetic biology is a branch of science in which you redesign organisms for useful purposes by engineering them uh, so that they have new abilities. So you give old or you give current organisms new abilities by genetic engineering, right? So till now there is a convention, UN Convention on Biological Diversity. It discusses all these things, but still there has been no concrete result on how to regulate such things. In India, Department of Biotechnology is the nodal agency, as I told you, but due to various issues, commercialization of such technology has not happened yet. That means technology is there, but right now it has not been converted into any viable product that can be sold to the public. All right. What are the ethical and social implications of synthetic biology? Right. So first question can be asked is like, are humans crossing the moral boundaries if they change the behavior of an organism? Right. If synthetic biology leads to new technology or new treatments or new cure for diseases, who will be the group in the world that will get access to them? Will the poor get access to it, or will it remain confined to the rich people? What are the third question? What are the environmental impacts of introducing modified organisms in the ecosystem? This is a very crucial question. Now, this will determine a lot of uh, outcome, right? Obviously, humans should not cross some boundaries, right? We should not, basically, living things are not to be used, basically, or abused. Of course, humans think that they are on the top of the chain, so they try to create everything for themselves. Ethically, we should not cross some boundaries wherein we change the order of the nature, because it might lead to some unintended consequences. Again, that's my opinion, that's my perspective. You can write something on your own also. You might totally go against my opinion, and that's okay. So that is why I have framed these in a form of questions, because my opinion might not be your opinion. So, but I've given you example on how to think. So similarly, you can think in this way, because some ethical questions are very personal. That means you have to create the solution for them. All right. Now, such ethical questions were also asked when Human Genome Project was started, right? And such questions will kept on being asked. You know, it will never stop. Why? Because technology is evolving. Technology will evolve. We need to evolve with it. So please remember this, that such ethical questions will keep coming up. So it's better that you take some time out after the session is over and think upon it, or Google it. Right? Try to find an answer. If you don't have an answer, try to find an answer. So basically, here another point I would like to discuss. In your general answer notebook, you can note this down, that any technology, like any other technology, synthetic biology also, it's an emerging science which will have positive and negative effects. This is very important. But potential, we need to see what are the potential harms and what are the potential benefits. And then we have to weigh them. We have to see pros are more or cons are more. And according to that, we need to develop a solution. So this can be a very general answer with respect to any new emerging technology. All right. Now, what is the way forward? For a country like India, it is a very big challenge, because technology will keep evolving, private sector will keep experimenting, they will keep changing technology, but India needs regulation. Otherwise, many companies might dupe people, might take the benefit of the gap in the regulation. So countries like India are in a dilemma because the industry is pushing ahead. They are going ahead with the technological changes, but there is no regulation or policy oversight. So way forward is we need to quickly come up a national strategy on synthetic biology, and we need to focus on defining role of public private sector. And of course, keep an updated IPR regime. We will study about IPR. Next, we come on the national guidelines for stem cell research. They were published in 2017. So who has released this? Indian Council of Medical Research. Why? To ensure ethical and scientific research. Because these are guidelines. Alright. So what is the significance of this thing? See, what has happened is the revised guidelines which were issued, they are in line with the advancement in the stem cell research. Stem cell research has gone very far, like it's progressing very quickly. So these guidelines that were issued, they were revised guidelines. Alright. So basically stem cell biology has emerged an important area of the biomedical field. It has a lot of potential, especially in disease cure, and so it makes a scientific reason that we need to have updated basically research guidelines. These guidelines basically also address the commodification of human cells, and more precisely the commodification of embryos. Right now, stem cells are used, especially embryonic stem cells may be used, that might lead to commodification of human cells and tissues. Right, you can compare this with commodification of women. Right, they are treated as commodity and not as a human. So similarly, something related might happen here. So these guidelines are basically issued to handle these cells properly, stem cells properly, right? So these are the three significances. Now, how will they do this? Basically by giving regulation and monitoring, right? Under a national apex committee for stem cell research and therapy, only for stem cell. Basically they will see how cells are stored. Basically there are banks, cell banks. So they will be monitoring the banking and distribution of genetic material like somatic cells. They will promote international collaboration so that they can get the best procedures and best technology. By ensuring principle of essentiality, voluntariness, social responsibility, privacy. So this can be again general answer. So this can be a framework like essentiality, voluntariness, social responsibility, and privacy. Right? Now, here the principle F of essentiality might be new for you. Voluntariness basically means you will not force people. Social responsibility means you will not basically capitalize or basically have crude capitalism. Privacy basically, obviously, you know what it means. So principle of essentiality, what does it mean? That means the research that is being carried out, whatever research it is, the research that is being carried out should be essential for the advancement of knowledge. That's it. Right? And it should benefit the patients, the doctors, and overall research. Basically, overall healthcare sector should be improved. It should not be just for the benefit of one company. Right? Then provides for benefit sharing with local community. Now, this thing is from a convention. I have taught it in the previous lecture. Go and see it. Prohibits. What does it prohibit? It prohibits cloning and human germ line therapy. Alright, these are the things that it prohibits. Basically, implantation of human embryo. It also prohibits under cloning breeding of animals in which any human stem cells might have been introduced. So, excellent guidelines, very well researched, and very need of the time. Next, we come to the DNA Technology Use and Application Regulation Bill 2019. Now, why are we reading this? Because it was introduced in Lok Sabha. So, why this bill basically? Right? Why the bill? See, DNA is used for establishing biological relationships, but now it is being increasingly used in criminal investigation, right? Now there the issue can come, issue of misuse of data. Someone's DNA technology can be used, DNA technology can be used to fake some data and maybe put the blame of the crime on somebody else. Then how will it do it? It will strengthen the justice delivery system. How? By promoting the privacy how? By protecting the DNA results. That means there might be some penal offenses. That means the punishment will be meted out to people who steal the data and strict rules will be implemented. Right, so this is the background. Now let's see the proper provisions. Now again, we don't have to go it in depth. We will just see the broader things. Always remember, you don't have to do a PhD. So as you will see, the way I have analyzed this bill, you will see various topics in it, various subtopics. So in the same way, you can make your own notes regarding any bill that you study. All right. So next we come to the provisions. In provisions, first is usage. It will be used under Indian Penal Code and civil matters. What about consent? Consent will be there for all cases except if the punishment is more than 7 years of imprisonment or its death. Again, I am just reading it out because there is nothing to explain in this. DNA banks will store data. So there is a provision that proper DNA banks with proper procedures will be established to store the data. Now, if you remove the DNA profile, for some cases, profile removal is allowed for some cases. All right, not for all. Now, there will be a regulatory board. Many bills have some board which will be implementing all that is written in the bill. So DNA regulatory board will be there which will supervise the DNA data banks, discussing the third point, and advise the government and ensure confidentiality of all DNA data in the country. So this is very important because this data will be as crucial as Aadhaar data. And it's my opinion that it might be even more important than that. Because with this DNA data, you can fool somebody, right? You can steal somebody's identity and it might be very late before person realizes. Penalties are there for unauthorized access. Now, what are the concerns? Concern is basically, first one is, it does not address the usage in medical research. That is, it does not cover commercial use of DNA. Right? It is not taking care of DNA editing, which will be the major technology in the future. Now, consent in many cases is not addressed. For example, paternity, maternity case, assisted reproduction, organ transplant, cases related to immigration. In those things, consent is not required. So your DNA can be taken without your consent. DNA, which is not quite good. DNA tests have not led to significant improvement in conviction rates in countries over the last 25 years. So again, just for crime, it should not be made. It should the bill should encompass more things. So what is the way forward? Now this third point is taken from USA. This study was done in USA. So they also used DNA test to, catch criminals. So the study was taken from there. So whenever you want to compare something, you can see how it is being done in an international arena. What is the way forward? You need to reskill the police, the fire department. Now again, see, the way I have made these notes for you is the way the notes should be made. So I have put questions over here. Why? So here you need to think. People just mug things up. Like you need to reskill the police. Okay, fine. But why? What is the problem that is there right now that you need to reskill? Right? Because whenever the data collection is there, forensic data collection. So in that, many times people are not trained to properly capture the data from a, let's say, a murder site or a criminal site. So we need to reskill the police and fire department to ensure that they understand what are the modern techniques we need to ensure higher cybersecurity of Aadhaar level of DNA data banks. We need ironclad privacy law for DNA usage, because DNA will be the, see, after DNA only thoughts remain, which would be the private things. So if DNA is the second highest priority, basically, again, this is my opinion. So your thoughts are private. Yeah, right now your DNA is also private, but again, these things are coming. The technology will be there which will use your DNA someday. So of course you need excellent privacy law which cannot be breached, or cannot be or cannot be misused in any way. All right. Continuing the way forward, we need to establish an independent regulator. The bill has proposed, but it is too powerful, and right now it does not have a lot of accountability mechanisms. It is also not very transparent. So those are the criticisms of the regulatory board proposed in the bill. Finally, what's the conclusion? See, Supreme Court, I'll quote a case here. Supreme Court in Malak Singh versus State of Punjab verdict held that organized crime cannot be successfully fought without a dosage, without a close watch of suspects. But surveillance cannot infringe the fundamental right to personal liberty. Now, what does this mean? This means that you need to create a system in which profiling of criminal is done, but according to the constitution. That means you do not infringe on somebody's fundamental right to privacy. You take their permission, and you have procedures. You do not, basically, like right now, if you talk about in some places in India, arrests are made without proper proof. So similarly, these things should not be done. You should not take somebody's DNA, or you should not force somebody's DNA, and you should not basically threaten them. You should take it legally, like this. So this is a very important case which you can use in any privacy related question, or any in lot of technology related questions. So this becomes another general solution. So I'll keep pointing out such things which will help you in mains. Now we come to a new bill, Assisted Reproductive Technology Regulation Bill. Now it was cleared by the cabinet, so it is, we should study about it. Why it is needed? Because we need to protect the affected women and children from exploitation by regulating IVF clinics. What happens is, many people come to India, or many people from India itself, they hire people, or basically females, for surrogacy, and then they do not take the kid, right? So it's a very grave thing. Now you might have gotten the hint. What is assisted reproductive technology? This is basically helping people who are infertile get babies, right? And mostly it is, the most common platform is IVF, right? We have discussed about IVF, so that is the ART. So we need to protect the women and children from exploitation by regulating the IVF clinics. Now why it is important? Because many ART clinics do not register themselves. So they don't follow rules and regulation, and so they are not under any policy control. So they do whatever they want. Second point is, infertile couples would be ensured ethical and regulated service. Now this is very important, because like I gave you an example, see, every party, there are three parties in this, right? Parents, the surrogate mother, and the child. So, or the unborn child, let's say. So they all have rights. If we do not regulate all the three things, and of course the fourth one is IVF clinics. So if we don't regulate all these things, if we don't provide a path by which the surrogate mother can get her right, the child also has some rights, the parents also has some rights and obligation. So everybody should have some right and obligations, and that should be enforced by some regulatory authority. So this is how we can ensure that infertile couple would get some ethical service, because couple might be paying for money, right? But they might not get the quality surrogate. This is how they can be fooled. Secondly, surrogate can be fooled in a way that the parents stop paying her the amount, or they go back on their word if there is no legal authority. Then the most important is the right of the child. If the child is born with some medical issue, then what? Then there are many parents who have actually left the child to with the surrogate. So all these things have prompted such a bill. Finally, social stigma. See, this relates to the infertile couple. In Indian society, a child is a mark of respect, right? As soon as marriage happens, everybody is like, please give us the good news. So, if you're not having children or not, you can't tell people on the face, right? You are not able to have children. So, point is, when you are not having children, either by choice or either by some medical issue, you will be stigmatized. And also in India, the adoption process is quite lengthy, so that is why many people adopt the ART method. है ना? So all these things are there. So again, this is the way to understand things. Now, how it will do things? It will set up a national and state board which will regulate, monitor, implement rules. It will set up a national registry of the clinics. It will enforce child rights, and the child will be given same rights as a natural person, right? It will also advise advise whom? Government of India. And it will also the regulatory this state board, this will advise the government. It will also help in changing the bill in the future if need be, right? Now the bill has tough basically punishments for people who indulge in sex selection. All right. Now coming to the last part. Now why it is very important to study, because this bill has relation with other bills: surrogacy regulation bill, medical termination of pregnancy amendment bill. Now the surrogacy regulation bill has said that it would be important to bring the ART bill. Basically, it's not the bill that has actually, let me explain it in another way. The committee, the parliament committee, which was analyzing the surrogacy bill, they said that you have to bring the ART bill before the surrogacy bill so that you can establish and a regulatory mechanism for the ART clinics. All right. So ART regulation bill is the first step to regulate the whole surrogacy sector, because we need a proper database of clinics. We need a way to properly manage them. All right. Similarly, the uh, abortion, the this thing, this activity cannot be again managed properly if you don't have proper database of clinics. So ART bill is the foundation for these two bills. It is very important that ART bill should be passed, but again it should be passed after the changes. So one thing I would like to tell you here, these three bills: ART bill, surrogacy regulation, medical termination, these all are protecting and recognizing women's reproductive right. So quite important. You can quote this in the exam also if something related to women's reproductive right comes. Now next, national guidelines for gene therapy, product development and clinical trials. Now again, we have studied about genetic therapy, gene therapy. So that is why we are studying about these guidelines. So basically this whole session is targeted towards the mains part of your preparation. This is by Indian Council of Medical Research. Why do we need it? Because there has been an increase in gene therapies and their trials, which brings the issue of patient safety and their rights. Basically, you need to prevent unethical use of a patient's body. You need to ensure that when a patient is being under a clinical trial, they have the rights and they have the process in which they can appeal if their rights are being taken away, right? We have to prevent the misuse of technology, obviously, by criminals and by doctors who do not want to follow the law. Then there are more than 50 million Indians who have inherited genetic diseases in some or the other form. Like I have taken example of genetic issue previously. This community in Andhra Pradesh which has a susceptibility to anesthetics. To attract investment in India for gene therapies. Now that is a very common thing. All right. So basically, this guideline is needed because things are developing and then we need to have proper regulatory mechanism. Understand like this. Don't just read the thing. Try to understand why it was introduced. Now that will help you in understanding more and hence remembering more. National guidelines again continued. So how it will do? It will say that overall we need to focus on human rights, human dignity and so on. We will develop institutional mechanism with an independent body that will monitor and regulate the sector. Compulsory registration of clinical trials. Sorry, there is a spelling mistake. Clinical trials. So what is the analysis? See, such gene therapies are quite costly and a lot of insurance also not covers it, does not cover it right now. And as we know, many doctors and physicians overcharge patients. So all these things need to be regulated. While we need to understand that there are many people who have rare diseases and they might not get the cure in the first instance, but policies like ICMR will certainly help in creating a platform in which people with even rare diseases get a chance to live a full life. Next thing we will come to is biopiracy. This is a keyword and important topic. What does it mean? So what is the definition? Basically, you take someone else's biological material and you utilize it commercially for yourself, but do not share the profits with the source. So that is the thing. Piracy, biological piracy. You must have heard about the piracy that goes on in regions around Somalia. So same thing. They steal what is not theirs. So what is the context? It is in the context of Indian traditional knowledge of medicine. See, there are a lot of biological diversity in India. There is a lot of biological genetic diversity, right, in microorganisms and macroorganisms. So India is basically a very biological rich country. We have a lot of Ayurvedic things, naturopathy, but a lot of Indians' traditional knowledge, it only exists in different languages like Sanskrit, Hindi, Urdu, and all that. So in India, or basically in foreign countries, many times these people would not understand the patent. Like what happens is, let me tell you, in foreign countries, if somebody applies some patent and that patent is basically Indian natural or Indian traditional medicine, the people outside the country, like outside India, do not have any information on that because the traditional knowledge of India, of Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, and so on, they are in Sanskrit, Urdu, Tamil, and so on. So they are not in English. So this is why there are many companies who do this. They pirate the stuff from India, right, and they patent it in their country. All right. So what are the steps taken to do this? Basically, ratification of CBD and Nagoya Protocol and enactment of Biodiversity Act 2002. It ensures what? It ensures equitable sharing of benefits arising out of the use. We have discussed, and this is also in your environment section. Ayush had been made a separate ministry. Formation of traditional knowledge digital library. Now this is important. This is very important because it's a database in which the Indian traditional knowledge is kept, but it is kept in 5 major international languages. What is the benefit of this? These traditional knowledge library, this is given to every patent office in the world, right? So if a foreign company steals something from India, right? And they go to their country's patent office and they apply a patent. So now now the patent office in the foreign country will be able to check if such a cure exists in India already. Now this is the benefit of traditional knowledge digital library. So what they have done is they have converted the text from Sanskrit, Urdu and so on to English and transformed it into a digital library. All right. Also, lot of what happened is government of India has declared lot of treatments free for the public, right? So no one can claim that it is my treatment. So government of India is also very smart. Then awareness among tribals is being created for they need to understand that if people come in like there are many researchers who come and see what is going on in the tribal society for getting their cures, but they don't give them the proper benefit out of it. So to train tribals so that they can ask if the person has taken proper permission and so on. So basically making tribals aware of their rights. Let's move on. Ethical challenges around gene editing. All right. So basically, according to the National Human Genome Research Institute, there are few issues. Like in designer baby, you are altering baby's genetic material for social reasons and not medical reasons. So basically, cosmetic. These are all cosmetic changes, like making your baby beautiful rather than curing a disease. Right. So we have studied about three-parent baby in which there was mitochondria transfer and that was a proper medical condition, but changing baby's hair, changing baby's eye color is not a proper medical reason. Then equity and justice. If genome editing becomes a viable product, we need to ensure that it does not become a class issue. That means only the rich has the access. Otherwise, it will lead to dystopia. Some therapies that can affect future generation, right? Like the unborn baby, you are changing the genetic structure of the unborn baby, but you are not taking any consent. I feel, in my opinion, I feel that it is fine if you're trying to save the life of the baby, but if you're trying to alter the genetic structure for only social purposes, then I think it is a bit dicey. Moral issues with use of human embryo for research, because the if you take cells from human embryo, obviously human embryo might die. So this is a very high ethical issue. That's why any human embryo that is tested is donated, right? Now, overall, what are the ethical issues in biotech? Basically, ethical issues that arise from modern biotechnology, right? So basically, first is protecting human subjects in clinical trial. This is very important because patients, especially the patients who have some diseases, so companies might misuse that and use that condition, use the patient's condition to their advantage. All right. Sometimes people don't even tell the proper side effects to the participants in clinical trials. So this is all unethical, very unethical. Then affordability. Of course, we need to make something which is affordable and accessible to people. As previously I discussed, equity. Any genetic technology that is coming up that can save lives should not become a class issue. Privacy, we have discussed a lot about it. Ethical use. That means it does not and it should not lead to bioterrorism. This is very important. Okay. Potential for ecological harm. Let me give you an example of this privacy. What if, let's say, uh, a 5-year-old was, or a 10-year-old kid or child was cured of a heart disease. All right. So that is there in their genetic file. But does the employer has a right to know this? Because nowadays what happens, people look at their the employers look at potential or look at Facebook profiles of their potential employees, right? So if your genetic data or the details about your medical issues can be bought online, does the person or the employer has the right to get this? Because even if the surgery happened, but the child might no more have the heart symptoms, right? So privacy issue will come up. Potential for ecological harm, like destroying some countries' ecology to win a war. Now, next point is risk benefit approach. This basically means that you need to know, if you are the decision maker of any scheme, you need to know about the pro and cons and help in an informed decision. All right. So basically, these are the way forwards. So you need to have a risk benefit approach. You need to have a precautionary approach. That means you should not accept anything until it is properly tested. All right. This way you can avoid unseen and unforeseen circumstances. Finally, you need to develop guidelines that ensure the principle of essentiality, voluntariness, social responsibility, privacy, confidentiality, environmental protection. Now, this one line is extremely important. You can use this as a whole answer. Like right now, I have given it in one line. But if you Google each word, also I have taught you about this. So if you search about each word, you will be able to write way forward easily in any answer. You can use this in any technological answer. You will not find such line right easily. So point is, please use this line as a part of your general answer so that you can write a way forward for anything. It's all about how you use things. All right. We can't remember a lot of things. We need to remember few things. We need to revise them properly. We need to retain them, and then we need to use them in examination. All right. So that is all for this lecture. Thank you everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your patience. I hope you understood things. If there are any issues, as usual, please let us know. We'll be happy to resolve it for you. Chalo. See you in the next lecture. Till then, please revise and take care. Bye bye.